IBD has increased in frequency throughout the world, but especially in the industrialized world. So Western countries were thought for a long time to be the leaders in terms of new cases of IBD, whereas recently we've seen countries in the Asia-Pacific region such as China, Korea, and to a lesser extent Japan see a much larger increase in the frequency of IBD to a point where now they're probably the largest parts of the world with the highest number of patients. Since the frequency of IBD has paralleled the economic development, the question came whether diet, which is part of the evolution of industrialized countries, has any role in this increased frequency, because the human genetics, the human genome doesn't change that fast, whereas these diseases have increased in frequency about 5-fold in 50 years, which is something that we've never seen before. Certainly diet cannot be the only answer, but it can be part of the answer for the rise in incidence of IBD worldwide. For the first time, we're trying to answer a question about the role of diet in IBD in a very scientific manner. From the treatment perspective, everything we've done over the last 20-30 years with our therapeutics has been to essentially turn right, whereas this time this is an option to turn left, not use medication, use something that's basically part of our normal life, which is diet, in order to try to treat these conditions. The DINE study is funded through the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, and it basically compares two different healthy diets, organic diets with no preservatives, trying to answer whether diet can affect symptoms in patients with IBD, or whether diet can indeed affect the inflammation that's causing the symptoms in patients with IBD. Because for a very long time we have learned that symptoms and inflammation do not correlate. So symptoms in patients with Crohn's disease can be caused by inflammation, but a lot of patients with Crohn's disease don't have inflammation and yet they still have symptoms. So this study goes to the core of two very, very important questions. Does diet affect symptoms alone, or diet affects both symptoms and the inflammation that leads to symptoms? The reason the Northwest is at the forefront of diet studies is because some very elegant results that came out of Seattle Children's Hospital under Dr. Suskind. They have yielded fairly impressive results, and certainly we're very interested to replicate those results in adult patients using a little more rigorous scientific design and trying to perhaps go deeper into understanding if diet works and why and how does it work.
Addie was diagnosed at age 8, and the drugs that are available today don't come without side effects. Some can be pretty severe. So when you have an 8-year-old child and you're thinking through your options, you want to go with the least invasive, least impactful option first and foremost. So that's why we chose the SCD diet. And literally within a couple months, she went from being in a significant flare to being in remission, and that was achieved through diet alone. SCD diet for Addie has been absolutely life-changing. This diet is her medicine. This is what's getting her into remission and keeping her in remission.
What we'd like people to understand is that we're not discontinuing, we're not stopping any medication that was prescribed to patients by previous providers. We're adding diet on to their existing therapies to see if that works.
When I would eat food when I wasn't on the SCD diet, it just made your stomach hurt and it didn't make you feel good. After going on the SCD diet, I have felt way better. All my inflammation's gone, and the food is way easier to digest, and it doesn't make my stomach hurt. It doesn't make me feel bad.
What's influenced me to continue to manage my ulcerative colitis through diet is that it works. And it's actually helping to control my different symptoms and helping me to alleviate my inflammation in my body. And I can feel it when I do it, and I actually don't deviate from it. And the more strict I became, the better it worked. So I continue to do it, and now it's just part of my lifestyle and actually what I consider part of the holistic approach to managing my UC. I think it's all a matter of how you look at things. I think that some people might look at the diet and say, wow, that's a really strict way of living your life. When I look at it and say, that helps me to actually have a better quality of life. And it helps me to manage my UC in a way that a lot of people, look at it and they can't believe that I've been able to actually get it under control and get to such a good place for it in such a short period of time. It's taught me that, it's really important to have a positive outlook and that there is a way to be able to manage your UC in addition to what you're doing with your medication.
obviously the most important thing as a provider is to see patients get better. That is the number one reason we're all involved in the DINE-CD study. I think this may have very important implications if it's a successful trial, because it will open the door for further studies of larger scale funded by both governmental and private organizations. And I think the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation should be commended here for putting not only their energy and resources, but actually money into starting this clinical trial, which is going to be very important for us.
The foundation is something that I can't even describe how helpful and how amazing it's been to have in my life. I think that, when I was initially diagnosed, I really was trying to find a community of people to help me maneuver my way around and to feel like I could relate.
We're obviously very early into this clinical trial, but anecdotally we have seen some patients whose symptoms have improved in the first few weeks. We're still looking forward to see more results, especially in terms of objective laboratory parameters, to see if there has been any change in their immune response. One of the ways to approach the answer to finding a cure would be to go after the cause, because if we can find the cause and we can treat that specific issue, we can theoretically get very close to a cure. And diet may be that missing link. It will provide answers to questions that have baffled not just the medical community, but the lay community, the patient population for decades, literally, and perhaps answer or dispel some myths. I think if we're really honest about having an answer to the question whether diet is indeed related to inflammatory bowel disease, and we're studying it in a rigorous scientific fashion, this is the way to get those answers.
I think the DINE study is so exciting. I think right now there's not a lot of information out there for UC and Crohn's patients to be able to say, this is what's going to help me have a holistic approach to being able to manage, my disease. And someone like me and learning to do it on my own took a lot of trial and error. It took a lot of elimination. It took a long time to get there, when I think being able to look at the UC and Crohn's community and say, what are the patterns, what are the trends, and how do we find out, what is the most effective way to manage diet, and being able to not only give that to existing patients, but newly diagnosed patients so that they can control their inflammation sooner. I think it just gets us one step closer to a higher quality of life and hopefully a cure.